Hey guys, what's up? This is Theo here. Welcome back to lesson 2 here at Free Code Camp Responsive Web Design Certification CSS Grid. So let's go ahead and get to it. So create a row gap using a grid row gap. So you can add a gap between the rows of a grid using grid row gap in the same way that you can add a gap between the columns. So let's go ahead and create a gap for the rows that's 5 pixels tall. So we'll say grid row gap and we'll say 5 pixels. We can sort of see that gives some margin on top of each one. Right, and if we increase this, we can add some more. Awesome. So let's go ahead and run this. Good to go. Number 2, add gaps faster with grid gap. So there's a shorthand for grid row gap and grid column gap. So what we want to do is add a grid gap that introduces 10 pixels between the row and 20 pixels between the columns. There it is. Good to go. All right. Number 3, use grid column to control spacing. So you can go ahead and read about all this, but to control the amount of columns an item will consume, you can use the grid column property in conjunction with the line numbers you want. All right, so here's an example, grid column 1-3. This will make the item start at the first vertical line of the grid on the left and span to the third line of the grid, consuming 2 columns. So make the item with the class of item 5 consume the last 2 columns of the grid. Okay. So what we can do is, like it's saying down here, grid column is because there's 5, we want it to consume the last 2 columns. Okay, and as we sort of change this, right, we can have it spread out 4, 5, right, until it's actually nothing. 1, we can have it, that would be having it consume everything, right? And then again, 1 divided by 5, right? 2 divided by 5. How much do we want it to actually control? 3 divided by 5, 4 divided by 5, Cool, good to go. All right. And, sorry, I meant to do 2 by 4 because there's 4 of them. And as we see, so right now it's controlling, looks like it's actually controlling a little bit more than half. So let's see, if we bring this down to 1, it's going to be, 1's going to be its own, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so you can experiment with that. I'm not too familiar with it, but good to know. All right, and last one, use grid row to control spacing. So you can make items consume multiple rows just like you can with columns. You define the horizontal lines you want an item to start and stop at using the grid row property on a grid item. So make the element with item 5 consume the last 2 rows. So we'll say grid row. We'll say 2 of 4. 2 of 4. Okay, and then if we brought this up to 3 of 4, it's going to go down. And if we do 1 of 4, we're going to have it to be everything. 0, 4. And just sort of playing around with this, right? Like what actually happens. It's kind of interesting. So 1 of 4, it's going to try and consume everything. 2 of 4, it's just going to consume the last 2 rows. 3 of 4, it's going to be pushed down to the last row. And 4 of 4, it's going to push down even further. So let's bring it back up to 2 of 4. Good to go. And let's go ahead and run this test. Alright guys, that's it for this lesson. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to look in the description box for the courses I recommend on Udemy if you want to learn React, JavaScript. And as always, have a nice day.